What's up? I'm Jack. Welcome to the LFC Transfer Room. Here to talk about Florian Neuhaus, the potential replacement for Jorginho Wijnaldum. The German midfielder has had a good season at Borussia Mönchengladbach and could make the jump to Liverpool. Stonadge interviewed Shivam Pathak, a Bundesliga expert, to get some more insight onto the player, so we'll have that alongside some stats. So make sure you subscribe while you're here, and let's get into the video. Florian Neuhaus, 6'1", 24-year-old center mid defensive midfielder for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He mainly plays in a double pivot for them and has made some serious developments in the last few years at Mönchengladbach.
I first came across Neuhaus in the 2018-19 season. This is a year after he'd returned from his loan from Fortuna Düsseldorf, I believe. And Neuhaus had just taken over sort of role in Mönchengladbach's 4-2-3-1 system, and he was only 21 at the time, and he particularly stood out to me the way he controlled the tempo from such a deep position in the field. He was able, for someone so young, to spread the ball out wide, connect with the fullbacks and connect with Mönchengladbach's wingers, who have changed over the last couple of years. The way he moved the ball from his deep midfield role reminded me of Joshua Kimmich in a way, and I immediately thought the way Neuhaus moved into the box very later on, he was a bit like Thomas Müller. So 2 seasons ago, that's when he really stood out to me.
Liverpool play a 4-3-3 when Alan playing on the left of the midfield trio. Neuhaus plays a bit of a different role for this Mönchengladbach side.
I wouldn't say the system's built around him, but he certainly benefits from the role that he has. So he sort of plays in the sort of left side of that pivot too, and he's got players like Oscar Wendt and Bentabani behind him. He's got Lars Stindl in front of him, which allows him to sometimes abandon that sort of typical defensive midfielder role and move forward a little bit more. And that's why he's not regarded as a defensive midfielder, but more as a central stroke attacking midfielder. So does his role in the midfield two of Mönchengladbach benefit him? Certainly, yes. I think that's where he plays his best.
So it's time to commit a few cardinal sins. I am going to use stats to compare players, and I am going to be the one trying to use stats. So the nerd glasses go on, and we begin to take a look at some of the stats. So here we have Florian Neuhaus, Youri Tielemans, Jorginho Wijnaldum, and Yves Bissouma. 3 linked to Liverpool, 1 leaving Liverpool. And we're seeing how some of these stats compare. All this data via fbref.com, all of it per 90, all of it in the league. So in terms of goals, assists, that's where Neuhaus is actually quite good at, coming from deep. That's what Shivam likens him a lot to. Thomas Müller coming from deep. High praise in his ability to join the attack from deep, and I think the goals reference that. I mean, he scores a goal or an assist every 1 in 3 matches. And in terms of where his stats also kind of glow, it's him versus Tielemans in the passing area. Tielemans would be a better option if you want to get a guy who can create from deep. Bissouma, a much better option if you want a guy who has some really good defensive stats and his ability to take the ball off dribblers, to press. So Neuhaus has some way to go in his ability to press players, but his ability to carry the ball, to create goals from the midfield, and he's got some good passing numbers. Not as good as others like Tielemans, but if you look at what Wijnaldum was producing, it's not an issue for Wijnaldum that he wasn't the most progressive passer. He was very good for Liverpool, so if Neuhaus can bring a different edge to Liverpool midfield, it could be a very interesting signing.
I don't think there's anything to stop him from playing in a 4-3-3 as well. If we talk about the links between Liverpool, the talks have been about being a natural replacement to Jorginho Wijnaldum. They sort of typically played on, I think, the left-hand side of that 4-3-3 midfield. And that's something I could definitely see Neuhaus doing. If he just played in that 4-3-3 on the left-hand side with maybe Fabinho or Henderson sitting behind him, I think he would absolutely flourish in that role. As long as you don't enforce on him this sort of single defensive midfielder, like traditional 6 role upon him, as long as you don't give him that and you give him a bit of freedom to play in the midfield, whether it be a pivot 2 or in that midfield 3, I think he'd flourish regardless.
Well, there you have it. Some basic stats of Florian Neuhaus in comparison to Wijnaldum, who's leaving, and other players, and some great analysis from Shivam Pathak. So thank you very much for him joining the channel and giving his great insight into Neuhaus. How would you like Neuhaus at Liverpool, and would he be a signing you want to see, or would you prefer to see a Tielemans or a Bissouma, or even another option that you want to see? Let us know in the comments down below. For myself, myself, Jack. This has been a video from the LFC Transfer Room. Make sure to subscribe to the channel while you're here. Take care.